A symmetry of broken systems. Kybalion. The air was thick with the principle of correspondence. As above, so below. The fissures in the plaster ceiling mirrored the cracks in the linoleum floor, and both were just smaller versions of the split in the sky he'd seen an hour ago. Vomiting neon. He understood now. Everything was a copy of a copy, vibrating at different speeds. His own hand was a ghost, a lower frequency echo of some celestial original. It was the most beautiful plagiarism. He tried to whisper this truth to the wall, but his breath just left a damp patch that looked like a forgotten country. Emo space. We floated in the gel capsule, our terrors becoming suspended constellations between the control panels. The ship's AI played a symphony built from the archive sounds of our own sobs. Pitched up into something resembling starlight, she said, "I miss the gravity of a real hug." I pointed to the viewport at a nebula shaped exactly like a broken heart, bleeding magenta and cyan. "We're inside it now," I slurred, my mouth full of electric candy. "This is the feeling made visible. We are not sad in space. We are sadness, given stars." Battle drums made from enemy skins. The hide was taut, still warm when he struck it. The sound wasn't a note, but a memory, the man's last gasp, the rattle of panic in his throat. The rhythm was infectious, a pulse of pure survival. We danced around the fire, our shadows colossal and jagged against the canyon walls. Each beat was a negation of his existence and a celebration of our own. It wasn't hate, it was ecology. We were turning his ending into our fuel, his skin into our anthem. The optimism was ferocious, a chemical spike of pure, undiluted continuation. The confusion web. Data stream solidified in the air, crystalline and sticky. He was caught in a lattice of other people's arguments, news, alerts, and surveillance footage of his own apartment. A meme from 6 years ago brushed against his cheek, its logic a venomous perfume. He tried to swipe it away, but his hand just got tangled in a live feed of a war zone, the screams tasting of copper and static. He took a pull from a chrome inhaler. Suddenly the chaos resolved into a perfect, shimmering lattice. Every nonsensical connection was a node of a vast, living brain. He was not lost, he was a thought, sparkling in the mind of God. Mushroom Valley. The ground breathed. Soft, pneumatic mushrooms pulsed with a bioluminescent sigh, their gills opening and closing like 1,000 tiny lungs. He lay among them, feeling their mycelial network thread up through the soil and into his spine, plugging him into the valley's nervous system. He felt the deer's fear 2 miles away, the slow, horny thoughts of a beetle, the deep, mineral boredom of the granite cliffs. It was an overwhelming empathy, a total loss of self. He giggled, his body just another fruiting body, temporarily dreaming it was a man. When you're lost in the darkness. The power had been gone for weeks. The dark in the subway tunnels wasn't an absence of light, it was a substance, cold and velvety. It got in your lungs, but then you learned to see with your teeth, to hear with the bones in your wrists. The scurrying in the walls painted pictures in your mind. A drip of water became a cathedral bell. Someone lit a candle made of old grease and a rag. The flame didn't push the dark back. It invited the dark to dance. And in that flickering we saw each other's faces, not as victims, but as priests of a new tactile sense. A sacred trance. The beat was a wooden box, a hollow thump that hit you in the sternum. The smoke wasn't incense, it was burnt plastic and jasmine, a sacred and profane cocktail. He moved without volition, his spine a serpent uncoiling to a command older than language. His eyeballs rolled back, showing the whites to the strobe lights. He was a conduit. The music poured through the hole in the top of his head and exited through his vibrating fingertips. He was not dancing to something, he was the dance, a temporary perfect vessel. It was the most explicit emptiness, and it was glorious. Terror train. The carriages rattled, a syncopated clatter on rails that seemed to be made of stretched tight nerve endings. Outside the window, landscapes bled into each other. A desert of shattered glass, a forest of writhing cables, a cityscape of melting mannequins. The conductor's face was a shifting mosaic of every person he'd ever disappointed. He checked his ticket. The destination was blank. A woman across the aisle smiled, her teeth like tiny polished bones. "There is no stop," she said, her voice a soothing hiss of steam. "You just get used to the speed." He laughed, a dry crackling sound. The terror was the engine. He leaned into it. Catalyst. It began with a spill, a single drop of chemical gold from a broken vial hitting the concrete floor of the warehouse. The drop didn't soak in. It spread, a liquid mirror reflecting a sky that wasn't there. Where it touched, the concrete bloomed into light-chan that sang in high-frequency tones. A rusted beam twisted into a rose of oxidized iron. The change was rapid, beautiful, and absolute. He watched a saccharine numbness on his tongue as his world was unmade and remade into something infinitely more interesting. He was just the witness. The catalyst does not participate. It only allows the magnificent accident to occur. Fire over the land. From the ridge, it looked like the earth was cracking open, bleeding light. The fire moved with a languid, predatory grace, consuming the forests of plastic trees and the archives of paper dreams. It wasn't a destruction, it was a disclosure. The heat on his face felt like a blessing. All the lies were burning, their ashes rising to form a new truthful sky. He took a long drag from a joint laced with something unpronounceable. The flames sang a chorus of pure, unchecked potential. They were not an end, but a violent, necessary beginning. A true desolation, scrubbed clean.